Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Krishna Hare Krishna
Hare
Krishna
Ram
Krishna
Ram
Hare
Ram
Hare
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 Ram
Hare
Ram
Krishna 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 Hare Hare
Hare
Hare
Hare
Ram Ram
Krishna
Ram
Hare
Hare
Ram
Hare
Hare Shri Krishna
Hare Hare
Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiv Sadi
Krishna
Gaura
Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar
Hare
Shri
Shri
Vasudeva
Krishna
Gaura
Chaitanya
Bhaktivinoda
Prabhu
Jai Shri
Nityananda
Krishna Chaitanya
Advaita
Prabhu
Gadadhar Shiv
Nityananda
Sadi
Shri
Gaura Bhakti
Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaura
Hare
Bhaktivinoda
Shri
Jai
Krishna
Shri Krishna
Chaitanya Prabhu
Chaitanya Prabhu
Nityananda
Nityananda
Shri
Shri
Advaita
Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhaktivinoda
Hari Bo.
Shri Radhe Gopananda Bhagwan Ki
Ki
Jai.
Jai.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So we'll be picking up again in the middle of a verse that we've been doing for a while. Tonight, though, we're going to introduce some Bhagavad Gita shlokas in the middle of the discussion, because I think it will help us digest everything a little more easily, because it is a difficult subject matter. And we're still on 2934, Prabhuji.
Yes. Yeah, your last two paragraphs.
And, we want to start. Yeah, well, we can start with. Actually, we could just start with this one. Person's in 4 5. Oh, can you read the verse? Yes.
Ite artham yad pratiyeta na pratiyeta chatmani tadvidhatmano mayam yatha bhaso yatha tamah. O Brahma, whatever appears to be of any value, if it's without relation to me, has no reality. Know it as my illusory energy, that reflection which appears to be in darkness.
So we're continuing our study on Maya, both the Maya that is called Yoga Maya, which is Krishna's energy in the spiritual world, and Mahamaya, which is the Maya that we live in, the illusory energy, which allows us to think that we have no relation to Krishna. So beginning here with, actually we should begin with the place saying, whoops, no, what farther down? Excuse me, you're correct.
The Lord is the original source.
No. There is one supreme person. There it is. There we are. There is one supreme person who is the progenitor of this cosmic manifestation and whose energy acts as prakriti, or material energy, dazzling like a reflection. By such illusory action of prakriti, even dead matter is caused to move by the cooperation of living energy of the Lord, and the material world appears like a dramatic performance to the ignorant eyes. The ignorant person, therefore, may even be a scientist or physiologist in the drama of Prakriti, while the sane person knows, while the sane person knows Prakriti as the energy of the Lord.
By such a conclusion, as confirmed by the Bhagavad Gita, it is clear that the living entities are also a display of the Lord's superior energy, Paraprakriti, just as the material world is a display of the Lord's inferior energy, Aparaprakriti. The superior energy of the Lord cannot be as good as the Lord, although there is very little difference between the energy and the possessor of the energy, or the fire and the heat. Fire is possessed of heat, but heat is not fire.
Madhav Prabhu?
This simple thing is not understood by the man with a poor fund of knowledge, who falsely claims that the fire and heat are the same. This energy of the fire namely heat, is explained here as reflection and not directly fire. Therefore, the living energy represented by the living entities is the reflection of the Lord and never the Lord himself.
Savitaji?
Being the reflection of the Lord, the existence of the living entity is dependent on the Supreme Lord, who is the original light. This material energy may be compared to darkness, as actually it is darkness, and the activities of the living entities in the darkness are reflections of the original light. The Lord should be understood by the context of this verse.
Parag?
Non-dependence of both the energies of the Lord is explained as Maya or illusion. No one can make a solution of the darkness of ignorance simply by the reflection of light. Similarly, no one can come out of material existence simply by the reflected light of the common man. One has to receive the light from the original light itself. The reflection of sunlight in the darkness is unable to drive out the darkness, but the sunlight outside the reflection can drive out the darkness completely.
Deva?
In darkness, no one can see the things in a room. Therefore, a person in dark is afraid of snakes and scorpions, although there may not be such things. But in the light, the things in the room can be clearly seen, and the fear of snakes and scorpion is at once removed. Therefore, one has to take shelter in the light of the Lord, as in Bhagavad Gita or the Srimad Bhagavatam, and not the reflective personalities who have no touch with the Lord.
Nishant? Nishant?
No one should hear Bhagavad Gita.
Nishant, we can't hear you actually.
That person is already there.
I still can't hear you. Are you near?
Okay. No one should hear Bhagavad Gita.
Can't hear.
Yeah, it's very light, Nishant. Something is not right.
Gajendra, Prabhu, we want to stop at the end of this paragraph before we start the
Okay.
next one, because
Alright.
it's a lot to
Sure.
digest. So then,
Sure. Let me just read this. So no one should hear Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam from a person who does not believe in the existence of the Lord. Such a person is already doomed, and any association with such a doomed person makes the associator also doomed.
so I'll ask one question here. There's tons of things that have been said here, but if you had to say what the main thrust of this paragraph is, what would that be? The main point of this paragraph.
So many things.
I know, but there's one main point, really main.
Sunlight.
Yes,
In
we're
the
talking
darkness.
about, yes, light and darkness, and the difference between different kinds of light. Real light and what's the other kind of
Reflection.
light?
Reflection.
Reflection. That's really important. And who's real light?
Krishna.
Krishna is the real light, and the reflected light, of course, is the light that we get from this material world.
It's Prakriti.
And that's the next thing it talks about. What is Prakriti?
Material energy.
Yeah, and but what's magic? What's magic about this material energy?
It's
It's
illusory, seems to be real, but it's illusory.
It seems like it's alive. Yeah, it's dead matter, but it sure does seem like it's alive.
Mm.
So what's the, so there's two kinds of prakriti. What are they?
Prakat, aprakat,
Yeah, we got para prakriti, and that
apara,
who's,
apara.
and who's para prakriti?
Krishna,
Superior
Well,
energy.
Krishna's energy.
Krishna's superior energy,
Yeah,
and the
Yoga
jiva,
Maya,
and the jiva souls can actually be the you know the
part of para prakriti.
One moment, we got a visitor here.
This is a little. No, there's no need.
We're doing this conference. I will talk to you later. Thank you so much. We we have a friend that we met here at this place, and when he came over to our place and saw our beads, and he said, "Oh, Hare Krishna." And so we've been, anyway, I sent him a text and I said, "Good to meet you, Frank." And he sends back, "Hare Ram, good to meet you." He's a nice guy. We gave him some prasadam last night. He said it was the best thing he's eaten in a long time. He doesn't realize it's the best thing he's ever eaten.
Sure.
It's all reflection. Apara
Okay,
prakriti.
so we were, well, that's not a reflection.
No, that is a real prasad.
Prasad, prasad
Prasad.
will
So we have, you know, sometimes the energies of the Lord are divided, are described in different ways. Sometimes it's described as three. You have, you know, Krishna's Swarup Shakti, or his spiritual energy, and then you have his material energy, Prakriti, and then you have the Tatashta, or marginal energy. This is being expressed a little bit differently in the sense that there's Para Prakriti, which is the superior energy in the material world. That's the Jiva souls.
That's us.
That's us. And we're pushing around all this material energy up Para Prakriti so that the world looks real, because you got all these Jiva souls embedded in dead matter, moving around and doing stuff with the dead bodies and pushing around other dead things. And it all looks real. But actually, it's like the difference between heat and fire. Fire is the source and heat is just an emanation. So this is just an emanation from the Supreme Lord, and it's separate. But that's the problem, because people can, it's part of it, but it's separated, and that's the problem. And Prabhupada even says here earlier, he says that these, oh no, in the next paragraph talks about scientists, they may be so smart, but they can't get the fact that there's superior energy, Krishna's spiritual energy, and dead matter.
Prabhupada also makes a very, very important point at the very end of this paragraph, warning that we should not hear Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam from a person who does not believe in the existence of the Lord. Actually, these 4 verses, which are the core of the Bhagavatam, are a reflection. Actually, Brahma is being informed by the Supreme Lord of who he is. He's the source. The Supreme Lord Krishna is the source of everything. And so everything is the pivot for all of the Bhagavatam is residing in these 4 verses. So unless we understand who the Supreme Lord is, then nothing will make any sense. And in the verse, it says that unless something has a relationship with him, that's the verse itself, 34, nothing has any value. So Prabhupada explains here at the bottom of this paragraph, no one should hear Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam from a person who does not believe in the existence of the Lord, because that's the central point. The Supreme Lord is the source of everything, and that's why it's called Srimad Bhagavatam, talking about the pastimes of the Supreme Lord and his devotees. Such a person is already doomed, and any association with such a doomed person makes the associator also doomed. How important it is to hear from the right sources and not from atheistic sources that deny the existence of the Supreme.
Any other comments or questions? If, oh no, we want to go to the Bhagavad Gita.
Yeah, it's just like, as Mataji said, it's the milk touched by snake.
Yes.
Deadly.
Mhm.
It becomes deadly. In regard to this idea of the reflected light or the material light and the spiritual light, there's a story that I heard from Hridayananda Maharaj, which is very illustrative, because he tells the story in regard to his flying in an airplane and coming down to land in Buenos Aires at night. And he says he looked out the window, he saw thousands and thousands and thousands of lights. And as he got lower and lower, he noticed that the lights were lighting up street corners and backyards and soccer stadiums and parks, and there were just thousands of lights. And all these lights were lighting up the whole city. But yet, even though they had thousands of these lights, it was still dark. But the next morning, the sun rises and everybody turns out their lights, and it's all light and everything is illuminated. So as he said, that all these artificial lights, these reflections of real light, they can only dimly light up corners of the material world in such a way that we really don't get relief from darkness. We only get relief darkness when the sun of the Bhagavatam rises. So that was his example. Before we go to the next paragraph, we were talking earlier today about, well, actually, the this paragraph talks about, by such a conclusion as confirmed by Bhagavad Gita, and we were wondering where that confirmation in the Gita was, and we found it. And that confirmation in the Bhagavad Gita comes in chapter 9. Text number 5 and the verses after that. So we're going to go to, and we're just going to read maybe it's text number 4. Text number 4.
4 to 10. 4 to 10, yes.
And we'll just read the translations here, and then we'll stop and just.
Gajendra Prabhu, if you want to go to the previous page, you have them all. All the verses are one by one. Follow it. It's like. If you go to the previous page,
yes,
there it is. You have them all in English, right?
So text 9:4.
Awesome.
Who would like to read that verse?
I can read.
I think.
Oh, sorry.
Is it Sanskrit or?
In this.
Just English. Just the English verses.
Okay. By me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is pervaded. All beings are in me, but I am not in them. And yet, everything that is created does not rest in me. Behold my mystic opulences. Although I am the maintainer of all living entities, and although I am everywhere, I am not the part of this cosmetic manifestation. So, myself is the very source of creation.
For myself is.
For myself.
For my, yeah.
Okay, the 6 and 7, someone can read?
Okay, I can go ahead.
Yes.
Understand that as the mighty wind blowing everywhere rests always in the sky, all created being rests in me. O son of Kunti, at the end of the millennium, all material manifestations enter into my nature. And at the beginning of another millennium, by my potency, I create them again.
And then 8, 9, 10.
I can read. Oh, sorry. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, please.
Okay. The whole cosmic order is under me. Under my will, it is automatically manifested again and again. And under my will, it is annihilated at the end. O Dhananjay, all this work cannot bind me. I am ever detached from all these material activities, seated as though neutral. This material nature, which is one of my energies, is working under my direction, O son of Kunti, producing all moving and non-moving beings. Under its rule, this manifestation is created and annihilated again and again.
So we see here the example of what we're speaking about, that those things seen separate from Krishna have no existence, because actually, what does it say? It says that this material energy, which is just one of his energies, is working under his direction. And the whole cosmic order is under him.
That's 8.
So this just highlights in a simple way, because Bhagavad Gita has the really direct, understandable philosophy of what we're talking about here. So I would recommend, if you get an opportunity, go back to 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita and read these verses and the purports. They're very, very enlightening.
And what could be more true than Krishna speaking himself and giving us all these truths about him and about nature, about the material energy, about everything. Krishna's words.
Any other thoughts before we move back to the rest of the
So, Prabhuji, so how do we understand that he says he's created, he's in there, but all those things are in him, but he's not in them. He's not touched. So he's separate. He's untouched by these things. How do you understand that?
He is saying, he's giving the answer in verse number 5. He's saying, and yet everything that is created does not rest in me.
Yeah.
After saying by me, my unmanifested form, this entire universe pervaded, all beings are in me, but I'm not in them. Why? Watch, behold my mystic opulence. How can we possibly comprehend?
So how do we understand? How do we understand that we learned that he's there in every living entity as super soul. So how do we understand he's not there within us, a living entity?
Because he's transcendental, he's non-material, he's not actually ever connected directly with this material world. The material world rests within him and his energy. Even, you could even say, in a sense, that the super soul is riding along almost like the ambassador of the spiritual world. He's not really here doing the things of this material world. He's the witness and the overseer, but he's not participating in this world. And when Krishna comes with his pastimes, he, Vrindavan's a spiritual world. It's not actually the material world. So the material world rests within Krishna's superior energy. He's not part of this.
I think I remember one example. I think somewhere read that to understand this is like, now I just remembered that example, a material example, like American embassy in India, New Delhi. That Delhi American embassy is as good, it is as good as United States. It can never be dominated or touched by any rule regulation in India, from India, although it exists in India, right?
Bravo, good answer. Another thing that was very similar, that when I was in India, I went to a Toyota dealer, I felt like I was in a regular dealership in America. Because they try to be just like in America, But yes, that's a perfect answer, Madhava. It's not really, it has nothing to do with, it's part of USA. So same way. Very nice.
Thank you.
So can we go on to the next, the rest of the last paragraph?
Sonali?
According to the Padma Purana, within the material compass, there are innumerable material universes, and all of them are full of darkness. any living being beginning from the Brahmas. There are innumerable Brahmas in innumerable universes. To the insignificant and are all born in darkness, and they require factual light from the Lord to see him directly, just as the sun can be seen only by the direct light of the sun.
Shiva?
No lamp or man-made torchlight, however powerful it may be, can help one see the sun. The sun reveals itself. Therefore, the action of different energies of the Lord or the personality of Godhead himself can be realized by the light manifested by the causeless mercy of the Lord. The impersonalists say that God cannot be seen, can be seen by the light of God and not by man-made speculations. Hare Krishna.
Here, this light is specifically mentioned as Vidya, which is an order by the Lord to Brahma. This direct order of the Lord is a manifestation of his internal energy, and this particular energy is the means of seeing the Lord face to face. Not only Brahma, but anyone who may be graced by the Lord to see such merciful, direct internal energy can also realize the personality of Godhead without any mental speculation. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Any thoughts or questions on this paragraph? Yes, that's Gajendra is highlighting not only Brahma, but anyone who may be graced by the Lord to see such merciful, direct internal energy can also realize the personality of Godhead without any mental speculation. And of course, as it's described here, one can't understand the Lord by mental speculation, that factually we can only understand the Lord by the light that he provides us. And it's sort of like the example I gave earlier. But another thing, it was interesting how Prabhupada says there, no lamp or man-made torchlight, however powerful it may be, can help one see the sun. Now it's dark now. I defy anyone to take their flashlight out tonight and try to find the sun. You can go everywhere you want to, but you're gonna have to wait for him to reveal himself tomorrow. So our speculators, they're gonna go out and take their little flashlight knowledge or intelligence and try to seek out where the sun is, but they'll never find the sun.
Prabhuji, does that mean that you will get the blessing of the Lord only when Lord wants it?
Kind of broke up there.
What's the question, Prabhu?
So I was just wondering that does it imply that the mercy of the God, it's not that when you want the mercy of the God, no matter how much you pray or meditate or work, you just have to wait when God is ready to bless you.
That's correct. That's correct. It is his grace. It is his grace. And he's giving his grace to those who can receive the grace, who are eager to receive the grace. And so that's how realization comes about. It's a gift for the Supreme.
We should be ready to keep, God gives us his grace like a blessing. So we should keep our hands open to catch the blessings. The blessings will come. But if our hands are not open, when the blessings come, we won't catch anything. So we have to keep our hands open. And that's the process of Krishna consciousness, to keep ourselves open to the blessings, so we receive his mercy. And as we become peaceful in the sense that we become free from the modes of passion and ignorance, which really drive us into a bad consciousness. We become more in the mode of goodness. Then our heart becomes more open. And when we're more open, then Krishna can actually project himself into our lives through realization.
Right. So that's when we get mercy, right?
Mm-hmm.
Gajendra Prabhu?
I'm saying that's when there's a chance that we may get God's mercy. But if we are not even doing anything, then there's no chance, right?
Yeah.
Yes, if we're not ready, there is a story in the Bible about the young maidens waiting for the bridegroom, and they were told to keep their lamps ready and lit because he could come at any time and be awake. So there were, I think it was described, there were 6.
No, there were 10.
There were 10.
There were
Okay,
10.
she knows better than me. Anyway, there were 10. And well, 5 of them kind of just lost it and fell asleep. And they let their lamps go out. And so when the bridegroom came, he said, well, you know, the ones who were awake with their lamps on, they got off, they left with him, and they were able to have that happy, of course, that bridegroom is God or Jesus. And they were taken to that place where they could be happy with him forever. And the ones who fell asleep, they woke up and found out they had missed the boat. So if we fall asleep and aren't awake to Krishna's mercy, he may come with mercy and we're not there ready for it. So that's what's so important about how we need to follow a process.
I'm reminded of a quick, very small story. So I heard that in a village, it was drought, and there were 2 boys, and they used to say, I believe that, you know, it will rain someday. And so it rained one day, but then one guy had dug a well and the water got stored in it, but the other guy didn't do anything. So water drained away.
Yeah, it's the same principle.
idea.
It's the same principle, yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
We have to be ready and willing. Yeah.
I think you might also find it interesting that it states here in the Padma Purana that there are a lot of Brahmas, and so there are lots of universes. So this goes against what we would call modern scientific understanding, but there are many universes. It's unlimited, and even the Brahmas, and there are unlimited Brahmas, are still an illusion, and they need to have the light coming from Krishna. What to speak of?
Different Brahma has a different number of heads, right, Prabhu?
Yes. Yeah, our Brahma
only has 4
Yes.
Our Brahma only has
So
4 heads.
there are
And,
other galaxies which are bigger, huge bigger than us, where there is a big
Right.
head, like so many head Brahma is there.
Well, of course, there's that story where Brahma is going to visit Narayan, and he knocks on he meets the doorkeepers, and they say, "Who are you?" And he said, "Well, I'm Brahma, the Lord of the universe." And they said, "Okay, we'll go back and tell the Lord." And then they go and they say, and the Lord says, "Well, which Brahma?"
Yeah.
They go back and say, "Which Brahma?" And he said, "What do you mean, which Brahma?" And then they let him in, and then Brahma goes in, and then he sees that there's all these other Brahmas with a huge number of heads, much bigger than him, and he realizes that he's pretty insignificant, and he's Brahma. So what should we think about ourselves?
Right.
And Brahma lives for 311 trillion years, which is a 1 breath of Mahavishnu. But we don't, we live like not even a second, just a moment, a flash of lightning life. We have to serve Krishna.
But how do I think one thing I was thinking, Prabhuji, was like, how do people believe that there are innumerable number of universes, right? So one thing is like if you see the stars, right? Don't we see that there are infinite number of stars out there? And we see that in the sky, right? Now, of course, we don't see different universes, but that can lead one to believe that, yeah, there is a possibility that there can be so many universes out there.
Well, this material world is unlimited in scope, and it's only because we become very, very puffed up that we start thinking we know something. In ancient times, persons, and Prabhupada says this, that even very simple people, they had a sense of awe about the grandeur of God's creation. But now we've become so scientific that we think we try to figure everything out.
And the important thing is to remember that all of this knowledge is in the Vedas. And so things that we can never discover on our own, we just have to accept as truth, because there's no material means to actually understand certain things. But the Vedas are giving us the knowledge, and then it's proven over and over again that what the Vedas say is correct, is absolutely correct.
Hare Krishna.
And if Lord Brahma doesn't know how many Brahmas are there, then, I think we have no idea. Right?
How can we know? How can we know?
If we look at all, if we actually go to a dark place where you can see stars, like you go out by the ocean, someplace away from a city, there's so many stars. It can put us in a situation of really being in awe of the universe. But when we live in the modern world, we think our phones are very powerful and we think our computers are very powerful, but they're just little tiny things compared to the whole creation.
I think the most important thing, though, is that we can still realize the light, like by the causeless mercy of the Lord and by the Krishna consciousness, we can still get the realization and get connected to the Lord himself. I think that's right.
Well, most importantly, that means if we live our life in such a way that we open up time for us to be with Krishna each day. That's through chanting japa, reading hearing some sadhu speak. Open ourselves up to something more than the chatter and vibration of the material sounds that are just everywhere. You can get absorbed in politics or in sports and all these different things, and they take up. We only have so much room in our hard drive, and if we fill it up with all these other things, we have less room for our connection with Krishna.
That's why it's important to establish some kind of practice, daily practice, to be able at the beginning of the day and then closing at the end of the day also. And by doing that, we will be protected during the day. And then we'll be able to remember Krishna throughout morning, afternoon, evening, and when we go to sleep.
Yeah.
So generally, what do you recommend, Mataji? Like when we wake up, what should we do other than chanting?
Chanting the holy name and reading Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam for sure. Absolutely.
Okay.
It's a very simple formula. And then maybe in the evening doing some Bhagavad Gita, or maybe doing a little bit of puja to the deity of Radha Krishna. A very good day of closing the day. And then when we go to bed, if we read a little bit, even if it is a couple of verses of Bhagavad Gita before we take rest, that will stay with us the whole night. And then when we wake up, that will be the first thing we remember. It's very powerful.
Yeah, anyone who goes to sleep at 10 can join us, 9:22.
We're already asleep. But don't start the day with Good Morning America or something like that. Some weeks ago, I had some occasion just to have a TV on for some reason, I can't remember. And I watched about 3 minutes of one of these programs, and I thought, you start the day like this, you're like being blown out of a cannon of motive passion. And you're like full of cares, full of anxieties right from the beginning, because it's all just crazy breaking news that, maybe you could wait a little while. We need to hear and chant and be peaceful, especially early in the day.
In fact, most people start by seeing the phone now these days. They're just waiting for some email to come through or some WhatsApp message.
waiting for that big, all-important message. You're going to die.
I heard in one of the lecture that it is like entering into the cave of Aghasur. Like before entering there, you have to look back at Krishna so that Krishna is there. He will pull you out of the cave.
But one thing
So-
is that even they say, right, it's like also it's law of karma, and then based on that, you also get into the devotional aspect in this human life. And then also is one human life enough to get that mercy of the Lord?
It may not be. We may need more than one life, but the fact is that it's not our karma that we meet, that we get an opportunity to become Krishna conscious. It may be our karma to have some a good position in life that we might be able to capitalize on. But it's really the mercy of the pure devotee who somehow or other touches us through his words, his kirtan, prasadam, or something. We get touched by a pure devotee.
Actually, it's interesting that Krishna is saying this because I didn't mention this to him, but I was thinking today about how we have been given a treasure. And we know all about the treasure, and we know where it is, and we know more or less all the details, but we don't have the key to the door to get there. We're right outside the door, and we know that on the other side is a huge treasure of Krishna consciousness, and we don't have the key. But then we can talk to the person who has the key, and he's going to be able to open it for us. And that is the instructing guru. Very important. Without this, the guru, there is no way we can access it fully. We can imagine it, we can dream about it, we can aspire to get it, but unless we have the person with the key, we won't be able to get it. And that is the guru. Extremely important. If you read the Bhagavatam, if you read the Bhagavad Gita, you can see that this is the instruction being given by the Supreme Lord. And so many examples are given in the Bhagavatam on this point. The association of the very, very advanced personalities.
All right, so I think it's.
I didn't mention this to you.
2 o'clock.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Jindra, for facilitating another wonderful evening of association.
Yeah. So we'll hear the kirtan.
Very much.
We'll hear the kirtan for 6 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then, okay.
Cohen Health. The appointments are all for the 13th and 14th.
Radha Rani ke jai, Maharani ke jai.
Radha Rani ki jai, Maharani ki jai.
Radha Rani ke jai, Maharani ke jai.
Radha Rani ki jai, Maharani ki jai.
Radha Rani ke jai, Maharani ke jai.
Radha Rani ki jai, Maharani ki jai.
Radha Rani ke jai, Maharani ke jai.
Radha Rani ki jai, Maharani ki jai.
Bolo Varshane Vale ki jai, jai, 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 jai.
Radha Rani ke jai, Maharani ke jai.
Radha Rani ki jai, Maharani ki jai.
Radha Rani ke jai, Maharani ke jai.
Radha Rani ki jai, Maharani ki jai.
Vishwa Banu Dulal ke jai, jai, jai.
Vishwa Banu Dulal ki jai,
जय 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 रानी की जय महारानी की जय रानी की जय महारानी की जय बोलो वर्षाने वाले की जय 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 बोलो वर्षाने वाले की जय 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 राधा रानी की जय महारानी की जय राधा रानी की जय महारानी की जय बानु दुलारे की जय 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 बानु दुलारे की जय 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 राधे 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 जय 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 श्री राधे 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 रानी की जय महारानी की जय रानी की जय महारानी की जय राधा रानी की जय महारानी की जय राधा रानी की जय महारानी की जय राधे 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 जय 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 श्री राधे 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 जय 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 श्री राधे राधे
Krishna. Before we go, let's all chant one Maha Mantra together, and to offer this to Mukesh's father, who has passed away, and send him forward into a much better and greater and more wonderful connection with Krishna. Hare Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Krishna
Krishna,
Krishna,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Rama,
Hare
Rama
Rama,
Rama,
Hare
Hare
Hare,
Hare,
Hare.
Haribo.
Haribo. Have a wonderful week. Hare Krishna.
Thank you for your
Hare
subscription. It's
Krishna,
always good to
Krishna.
see everyone.
Thank you.
Have a great
Prabhuji.
weekend.
Thank you, Mataji.
Haribo,
Prabhuji, we can
Haribo.
see you.
Thank you, Gajendra.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We can see your fan running in the background.
Nice. Srila Prabhupada ki
Yeah.
jai.
Haribo.
Haribo.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna,
Haribo.
Sarita.